Welcome to yet another iteration of the Legendary Licks series. You've seen legendary licks you think are hard, but they're actually easy. You've seen legendary licks you think are easy, but they're actually hard. You've seen legendary licks you think are hard, and they are. You've seen legendary licks you think are easy, and they are, but you're playing them wrong. And now we've arrived at maybe the most mysterious entry yet into this series. Legendary licks you think are strange because they're odd. And yes, those of you who picked up on the pun, odd meaning odd time signatures. These are legendary licks and riffs of famous guitar players and bands that are strange sounding, a little weird, and that's because they're in odd time signatures. So this is a dive into not only examining these legendary licks and riffs, but understanding, different time signatures and how cool it can be to manipulate your compositions with the use of odd time signatures. And we're going to go through a lot of them, so buckle up. And of course, I want to let you know if you're interested in learning more about some of the music theory and different jargon that I'm going to get into here and there throughout this lesson, then please check out Guitar Super System. It is my learning platform for guitar players. Thousands and thousands of you have already signed up and more coming through every day, and I'm really humbled and grateful to be a part of your guitar journey. And of course, if nothing else, thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Now, let's get to the first song, Alice in Chains, Them Bones. So this song is in 7/4, and what that means is there are 7 quarter notes in each measure. 7/4, 4 meaning a quarter note. If it were 7/8, there would be 7/8 notes in the measure. So it's a lot of the time having to do with the rhythm section, meaning the drums and bass, that I find dictates the time signature. Not all the time, but in this case, for sure. And just for an example, you can change this to 4/4 by adding one more beat. So something like this. Obviously, that riff becomes a lot less interesting when you do that. So that can be the beauty of odd time signatures, is it really makes even the most simple sounding riffs a little bit strange, a little bit interesting. So you can imagine what would happen if you write a little bit more of a complex guitar part. This is a song called Frame by Frame, and it's by King Crimson. It is 2 separate guitar parts, Robert Fripp and Adrian Belew, respectively. And the beauty in this is really the mathematics of it. Now this is in 7/8, so here we have an example of 8th notes dictating the time signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is the feel. This is the guitar part. So I'm going to leave you with that and let you know what makes this guitar part special. It's the other guitar part, and the other guitar part is playing in 13/8. So we kind of jumped up a level here. We have a 7/8 part going against a 13/8 part, and essentially what that means is Robert Fripp is dropping a beat out of his phrase. He's actually playing the exact same riff that I just did, but instead of continuing that pattern, he drops out that last note on the would-be 14th beat. So what ends up happening is this. So as you can hear there, we're losing a beat, and that's happening while the other full 7/8 phrase is playing. So it creates this crazy echo effect. I just have to impart to you how cool this is, because the phrase that's in 13/8 is losing a beat, losing a beat, losing a beat, and it's cyclical. So it comes back around and eventually syncs right back up with the original guitar part. It's mind-blowing. It's one of my favorite guitar parts ever. Note about 7/4, 7/8, and 5/4, and many time signatures that aren't common, you kind of subdivide them in order to count them easier. So a riff like this would be, in my opinion, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3. That's how I would break up the 7/8. So it'd be like 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3, something like that. And that is how you break that up. So something to think about as we move through even more odd sounding licks, which we're going to do now with the next song. So this is a song in 5/4. It's by Radiohead and it's called 15 Step. And Jonny Greenwood is, if you don't know, he's the guitar player for Radiohead, and he's actually an amazing composer of not just the music of Radiohead, but also for film. He has some of the greatest film scores ever, and I think that sort of musicianship is really apparent in his guitar playing. This part that I'm going to show you is so simple, but it's so effective. Here are the chords in case you're interested in learning it. So this is sort of like a spread triad, because normally you might play a closed position triad like this, but we're taking this root note, dropping it down, and there's this little dancing, and then we're going to come up here to a little C sharp major triad, again spread voiced, and he is going with this same motion. So we're coming up here to this E flat in the root. So this is just sort of a diatonic motion here with the harmony. So with this E flat, back, and occasionally he'll, and that's really the riff. And it sounds really cool with the drums. They're very Radiohead. This might be the most Radiohead song. This might be the first song I show somebody if they'd never heard Radiohead before. It's just the epitome of what I love about this band. And this is an example of where the guitar groove is really dictating the 5/4 pulse. So instead of 5/8, where if the guitar was happening a little bit faster, then maybe you might feel that way, but just the way the harmony moves, the harmonic rhythm, definitely indicates a quarter note pulse. All right, we're back. It's the next day for me, but for you, it's only been 1 second. I am going to show you 6/4 now, and this is, I'm going to show you a riff by MGMT, and it's called Electric Feel. This is in the time signature of 6/4. So this is a pop song, hugely popular on the radio, and you wouldn't expect that from a 6/4 time signature song, and that's why this song is unique and maybe a little strange, because it's an odd time signature. So what differentiates 6/4 from, say, 6/8 is essentially you use 6/4 when you want to emphasize the broadness of the beat value. So in this riff in particular, it is very apparent that there are 2 extra quarter note beats, and that is indicated by the snare drum. So you'll hear very simply that this riff is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which would be 6, 8. Moving forward, we have Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, and this is a famously interesting odd time signature song because the drums are in common time, which is 4/4, but the riff is in 3/4. This is a really good example of the sort of hypnotic nature of time signatures like 3/4. Endless cycle and endless motion, and you can tell by the riff. So you see how it doesn't necessarily follow the exact pattern you would think it would go back to. It skips the beat that you are missing there. So that's usually how you can feel if a song has an odd time signature, because it feels like it's missing something. And that's not a negative critique, it's just different, odd, strange. And this song's interesting. It's actually played in Dadgad. I'm just in drop D right now. But you want to tune all the way to D-A-D, G-A-D if you want to play this full song. You have 5th fret of the A string, open D, and then an A fretted on the 2nd fret of the G string. And then you just move that up chromatically. And it obviously jumps a whole step there at the end, but the bass note, or the drop D note here, happens every other time. So we have. So right there, it keeps with the pattern of hitting that drop D note every other time, but if you noticed in the very beginning of the riff, it doesn't do that. But when it comes back around, that's the beginning of the riff, the second cycle. It's just an awesome riff. Now we have another 5/4 song. This is by Queens of the Stone Age, and it's called Hanging Tree from their album Songs for the Deaf, my favorite Queens of the Stone Age album. So the main riff is pretty straightforward. It just has this kind of pull-off thing happening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very straightforward. And then there's this really cool whammy effect. And by the way, I'm nowhere near close to Josh Homme's tone, but you know, you get the point. There's this really wild whammy thing that goes. That's happening over that 5/4 part, so it gives it just an added atmosphere to the oddness, and that's all well and good, but the interesting thing that I want to show you here in the lick that I'm talking about is actually the guitar solo, which takes the song from 5/4 to 10/8. So the guitar solo is this weird carnival ride, and it's happening over this. So that's where the 8th note feel comes in. They're kind of riding on the ride cymbal, and it's galloping sort of feel. So that's where the 10/8 comes in, and the guitar solo is just Queens of the Stone Age perfection. And finally, we come to the ultimate legendary lick you think is strange because it's odd. This song could be an entire odd time signature video in itself. It's Schism by Tool. This song has 47 time signature changes, and it is quite magnificent. I could really include like literally every riff and lick in this song as its own entry on this list that I'm making right now, but I'm gonna choose 2 highlights, but I'm also gonna let you know a little bit about this song. So the first part that I'll choose is the main verse, which switches between 5/8 and 7/8. It alternates. So it's an 8th note feel. We know that from the bottom denominator of the time signature, 8th notes, and we're switching between a 5/8 note pattern and a 7/8 note pattern. As far as the drums are concerned, they're really conveying each of these time signatures pretty flawlessly. Really every instrument on this song is just the top of proficiency. So this is the first riff. So you can hear there, we're going between 5 beats and 7 beats, and the bass is doing a harmony there. So this lick is derived from a natural minor sound. And it's sort of a tongue twister because initially you may want to keep your ring finger off, like that, but we're actually hitting this D note. So that is the sort of little jungle gym that your fingers have to do. Instead of, that would be easier, but nothing's easy in this song. So that's where we're going. Okay, finally, the coolest riff or lick in this entire video, and maybe of all time. This is the hard, I guess you could call it like a bridge or a pre-verse or a post-chorus, or it's the heavy part towards the middle of the song. I get tongue-tied even talking about this riff because it's so heavy and sick. And by the way, we're in drop D for this, so get your guitar in drop D and we're gonna learn this riff together, note for note, because it is so sick. And this riff in particular is also broken down in alternating patterns of 5/8 and 7/8, which you'll hear. It's essentially feels like you're tacking something onto the end, so that's how you can identify these different feels. But this is the riff. I'll show you it first and then we'll break it down. So here's the riff slow. So really how I would feel this riff is 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. So everything in this riff is tight. The tone is really tight, mid-rangey and saturated. The palm muting has to be real tight, no reverb, no delay. And each note is really accentuated and clear. It isn't like a chugging riff or anything. It's very straight ahead and precise. So we have very slowly, I really want you to learn this riff. So without the palm mutes or the little thing at the end, it's pretty simple. So once we have that, you add pick scrapes or palm mutes, whatever you want to call them, in between each chord other than this little. So every time there's a chord change, you got those in between. It's 3 sets of 2 altogether. Now that we have that, we have to simply add on to the end what makes it 7/8. And this is a tricky one to get down because it has to be seamless from this last chord. So that's what I would practice. And we're just hammering on the D string. Again, we're in drop D, 0 3 5, and then 3 on the A string. as you saw there, that little embellishment, that little flourish, that's just attention to detail right there. That is so cool, that little subtlety that he throws in. I wish I wrote this. There you have it, guys. Legendary licks you think are strange because they're odd, an examination of odd time signatures in popular music that you love. So there's obviously plenty more. Please leave a comment on other songs that have odd time signatures that you love, and maybe somebody will find their new inspiration. Again, check out Guitar Super System if you'd like to support me and learn awesome guitar knowledge in the process. There's a link right down below to subscribe to that. And I appreciate your viewership. Until next time, that went sideways. Keep shredding.